The story of a legendary performer is now in theaters and is coming to Winnipeg. Any Other Way, the Jackie Shane story, celebrates the incredible journey of Jackie Shane, a transgender black woman whose talent and courage paved the way for performers of diverse identities. The film explores her meteoric rise and answers the question of her sudden step out of the spotlight. Why is telling her story important, and how can her perseverance help inspire all of us? Let's find out.
Absolutely. My name's Justine Pimlott, and I'm one of the producers of Any Other Way, the Jackie Shane story.
So for our audience as well, what does a producer do in terms of a film?
I don't think you have enough time. It should be a series. It should be like a 10-part series. I always say, what does a producer not do? I mean, really, a producer's role is financial, which means it can be about raising the money for a film. It's also very creative. It's a creative role. It's working hand in glove at times with the creative team, building the team, building who the creative team are, working on story together, giving feedback, watching cuts. A producer really has the big picture in their mind the whole time and all of the different elements that go into making a film.
Wow. Yeah. I took a short little course, just like a couple weeks, that kind of covered all the different areas like cinematography, director, and producer. Wow. The producer role sure is busy.
It's huge. It's a huge role. And I think that people have this idea that it's just about money, and that's huge. When I say that, I'm certainly not diminishing how difficult it is.
Well, you can't make a movie without money.
You can't make a movie without money, and movies are expensive. Independent producers who raise a significant amount of money are heroes because it's a really tough thing to do. And just, in terms of my role on this film, I just want to be clear, I've been an independent producer for the majority of my career, but I'm in my capacity on this film. I'm the NFB co-producer, so I'm privileged in that role at the NFB that I actually have money available to me to support projects. So it's a different role than an independent producer who has to go and get all of the different elements, including the money from the National Film Board of Canada, to put together a budget and to close the financing on a film. Kudos and hats off and acknowledgement there.
Yeah, the NFB really helps with a ton of different films. Recently here in Manitoba, the Gimli International Film Festival, there's several films that were showcased that were funded through the NFB. So it's always exciting to see what sort of stories they're helping tell. So let's get into this, the story that you're telling here. When I first heard about it, I was like, Jackie Shane, who is this? And the more I get to learn about her and her history and even listening to her music, I've been completely blown away by it from this person that I have barely heard about or never even heard about in stories or media.
I mean, I think that's why the film is so important. I mean, it's important on many levels, but it really is about giving flowers and making visible this very powerful story, Jackie's story. People not knowing about who she is or what she did. I mean, she was an extraordinary musician. She was an incredible pioneer, an incredible elder who, we in the LGBTQ plus community, who's, we stand on her shoulders, but not just us. I mean, Jackie's short story should be heard by everybody because there's so many universal themes. There's so much that Jackie says that's an inspiration to all of us. So yeah, that was the point of the film. The point of the film was to make visible this Jackie's story, to make visible this powerful story of this extraordinary woman. And she wanted her story to be told. As you see in the film, I don't want to give away any spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it. Jackie, you'll discover when you see the film, Jackie left clues. Jackie left things behind that, was very clear that she wanted this film, her story told. And, in the early research phases and development, she spoke with both Michael Mabbitt, one of the co-directors, and she also spoke with me. And it was very clear from those conversations that we each had that, Jackie, it was time. She was ready. It was ready for her to tell her story.
And I think it's so powerful looking through her history, learning about her, this budding star who eventually left the spotlight. Because I think it's important because not only is she a person of color, but a member of the trans community as well, especially with all the rhetoric and things going online and just through the media right now concerning trans people, showing the stories of these individuals. It's not just a new phenomenon. It's something that's been happening for not just decades, but for the entire human experience.
No, absolutely. I mean, LGBTQ2+ people, we've been here forever. It's not new. Trans people have been here forever, Two-Spirit people forever. We've been part of society, part of culture, part of humanity forever. So, and I think when you look at Jackie's legacy, what is extraordinary is there were no protections at that time. Her being out, her performing in makeup, her performing in the ways in which she did, she had access to opportunities to become a star. And she was offered to be on American Bandstand, and she was offered to be on the Ed Sullivan Show. And she turned them down because they were discriminatory. They didn't want her to wear makeup on the Ed Sullivan Show. And she says in the film, they didn't tell the Beatles to cut their hair. That was a form of discrimination. On American Bandstand, they wanted Jackie to perform, but American Bandstand was notorious in terms of the discrimination towards young Black kids dancing on the show. And Jackie said no. And so Jackie faced a lot of discrimination, and she stood her ground. She's somebody whose values are so intrinsic or so strong that she drew the line and said, no, that's not okay. And I'm going to stick to who I am and stick to my values and live my life as my authentic self. So apropos of what you're saying about, how right now in the world, history repeats itself. We are living in a time where the backlash is upon us. And you see in the United States, especially, all of the anti-trans bills that have been trying to be passed, some of which haven't, some of which have. You see that backlash. And so our perspective is that this film is more important than ever because it is about making trans lives visible. It is about making trans voices visible. And in doing that, you break down barriers. In doing that, you see the connection of how we're connected versus how we're different. So that is why this film is an impact film in that sense. We also hope that, it's a fantastic story about this incredible artist, this incredible woman, but it's also an opportunity to educate people and to make a beautiful, queer, Black, trans life present and for people to meet her, to people to get to know Jackie.
Was that part of the reason why you wanted to get involved in this film? Okay, perfect. Because I know your history, you're involved in activism. You started Film Furies here in Winnipeg. For myself, learning about it, it's incredibly important because look what's happening in the world. It's crazy. The Albanian boxer, just because she doesn't fit in a particular box, it's oh, we got to transvestigate this person now. And it's what's going on here?
Exactly. I think it comes from a place of fear. Othering comes from a place of fear and not knowing. And rather than looking at what connects us, looking at what separates us. I've been an activist my whole life. I knew I was LGBTQ when I was a teenager. And so, we didn't have the rights we have now. We didn't have the role models we have now. And we certainly didn't have any kind of role models in the media. People were very closeted. And so I've been an activist all my life. And all of my documentary work has been about social issues and important social issues. So absolutely, for me, it was really key to get on board and make this film precisely because of that, precisely because I see documentary films as a way to change people's minds, to change people in a very organic way around coming to a place of understanding about lives that aren't like yours, and educating people around issues, but through very personal stories that resonate, through very character-driven stories that resonate.
Let's get into the development of the film and the creation of it. When I was doing just quick research about it, I was talking about that there wasn't a lot of footage of Jackie's performances. And when we're looking at this film, you have an actor that is capturing her performances, and you also had another actor that, does some of her voiceovers and phone calls and stuff like that. But there's also a phone conversation in there. Let's talk about that, taking the elements that were there and then adding and kind of creating these other artistic elements.
Absolutely. So in the development phase, it was very clear that there was only this one piece of footage that actually existed of Jackie. If you look at other what are considered biopics or music docs, there's tons of footage you see. And so there was this one piece that you see in the film when she was on Night Train, and it's the only piece that exists. And so it really was a creative challenge. How do we tell Jackie's story without really, other than this, any footage at all? There's photos and ephemera and posters and so on, but that's it. So Michael Mabbitt, one of the co-directors who co-directed the film with Luca Rosenberg-Lee, he knew early on that he wanted to use live action and rotoscope it. And so the idea was around, Michael had recorded a series of phone calls that is in Jackie's voice. And Jackie is the narrator of this film. This story is told in Jackie's voice. The idea was taking these extraordinary conversations that were recorded on the phone and have an amazing actor. And in this case, both the actors, Michaela and Sandra, are also trans, and having them, in the case of Sandra Caldwell, she plays older Jackie. And so you see her, she's on the phone and she's lip syncing Jackie's interview. Michaela plays Jackie as a younger and Jackie performing. So you see all the stuff you see with Michaela is Jackie performing. And it's a beautiful gift. I call it a beautiful creative gift because the animation adds this other cinematic element that really brings a lot of beauty to the film. And so instead of it being a hindrance,
it's an opportunity, right?
It's a creative opportunity. Exactly. Yeah. And of course, we wanted Jackie, but sadly Jackie passed before we started rolling the cameras. And so I think this is a beautiful creative opportunity. And I think that Jackie's smiling down on that.
Yeah. Like when I watched the trailer, some of the other promotional materials, it's absolutely beautiful. I've watched a lot of biopics in the past and a lot of documentaries. I'm on the board of the Real Pride Film Festival, where we've watched a ton of different documentaries, a ton of different films. And sometimes they can be quite dry when it's just like photo, voiceover. So having those opportunities to change the artistic perspective and add something to it can really enhance a product so that people who are watching it can really engross themselves in the film, because there's nothing worse than you have this really important message you want to share and audiences aren't really engaged with it.
No, I think that like you, I've obviously watched, a million docs and obviously when you're doing research about a documentary about a performer, music, and I'd seen them all anyway because I'm a huge fan, and you want to do something different, and you want to, for us it was about, well, how do we create that sense of intimacy, that you're sitting there with Jackie and she's telling you the story. So it was really also about that intimacy, right? And the level of intimacy that we creatively wanted to create, and really comes through. I think it really feels like you're there with Jackie versus kind of this more arm's length.
I know you were recently at the Gimli International Film Festival presenting this film as well. How was that experience going there, presenting this film to an audience here in Manitoba?
Well, I think you know that I grew up in Winnipeg. And so for me, it was a homecoming. I love when I get to go home and I get to show films. I've had films at the Real Pride Film Festival. It was fantastic. I just was, it's going to be at the Cinematheque, by the way.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, in September, starting on September 4th. But for me, what I especially loved about the Gimli screening was that it was at a church. It was at the Unitarian Church. And it's this like beautiful, I had no idea in my head what it looked like. So when I pulled up, I was just so thrilled because it was like this little country church and, the big when the big banner with Jackie on it was like placed outside the church. And I just thought, yeah, we're attending the Church of Jackie, you know? And so it was beautiful. I just thought it was so fantastic. Like, what a brilliant venue. At first, I'm like, what is it, a church? You know, and then it was like perfect. It was perfect, you know, and a great crowd, really enthusiastic, super engaged. So yeah, I loved it. It was great. It was great.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just have to say, I think Jackie would have been thrilled about that too.
So for our audience, let's do a quick synopsis about this film, what they can expect watching it.
Any Other Way, the Jackie Shane story is essentially an extraordinary story about this incredible artist, this incredible R&B soul singer who basically was an extraordinary pioneer. She led the way, you know, and fled so-called Jim Crow South, like this racist South, came up to Canada. She made Canada her spiritual home, in particularly Toronto. And she came up, first she went to Montreal and she performed in the clubs along the Main, along Saint Laurent, landed in Montreal where she stayed and built this incredible audience, you know, audiences that came to the Sapphire Club downtown Toronto and saw her perform. You know, buses and buses of people would come up from Buffalo. I mean, she was extraordinary. And then she had this number one, well, it went to number one, but she says in the film, like the radio station, you know, Chum at the time, you know, wouldn't let it, you know, and kept it at number two. And it was called Any Other Way. And it was a huge hit. The lyrics are fantastic. I hope you're going to play the song. Just as that hit, and she was on the verge of stardom, she left. She disappeared. And so the film unpacks what happened. You know, where did she go? Because there was lots of different rumors about what had happened to her. And essentially the film unpacks her early history, you know, her move to Canada, her rise, and then her disappearance. And then, you know, brings you to really quite an extraordinary and moving ending.
I can't wait. I just absolutely can't wait. Everything about it is just so exciting to me. Justine, thank you so much for taking this time to chat with me. And I can't wait till others can experience Any Other Way, the Jackie, let me try that again. Any Other Way, the Jackie Shane story.
Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. And Dave Barber, Cinematheque, starting on September 4th. Plus, if you want to follow Instagram, go to the Jackie Shane story on Instagram, at the NFB, at ONF on Instagram, and you'll find updates on where it's playing around the rest of the country.
Have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight? Leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.